Alrighty, so apologies for the late review for these midweek games as I got back from LA yesterday, but today we're gonna do the full review of all these games from the midweek because we don't really have time to split it into two part, knowing the fact that tomorrow we got another full slate of MLS action that's gonna happen. But in terms of these midweek games, we definitely saw some surprises, some expected result, some missed opportunity for teams that are on the bubble of the playoffs to either climb above the red line or get themselves a little cushion away from the red line. But most importantly, we'll definitely talk about the meltdown that I witnessed in person in that game that I went just a couple of days ago because my God, it was an absolute meltdown of the ages that I haven't seen my team have that big of a meltdown in quite some while. But first of all, let us begin with the first game, which is Charlotte and the Philadelphia Union. Speaking of meltdown, so yeah, this has been kind of the problem for Charlotte this season, and I've said before that they're kind of labeled as maybe the Columbus crew of this season because you know how Columbus last season multiple times that they blow leads late and give up points late in the game. Feels like Charlotte is basically taking that role because they were 2-0 up in this game, and albeit it is against a Union team that has been pretty good lately. I mean, yeah, this feels very similar for Charlotte fans seeing their team once again blow a late lead to draw points in this game. Now, in the first half, the post actually denied Donovan from close range before Burns hits one right to Blake. Donovan then hits one right to Selena before Capetti would hits one right to Blake. And so both of these teams getting some good chances early as they were pushing for the opener. Kalina then denying Donovan from close range before Baribo, who gets his first start for the Union, he hits one right to Kalina. He had another chance just a minute later with a looping header, but that one goes onto the roof of the net. And I thought the Union started to get some good chances. They were starting to control this game, looking for the opening goal. But as I said that, Marin hits one right to Blake, and we do head to halftime scoreless in this game. We wouldn't say scoreless for long because in the second half, Marin would be on target as he scored here in the 55th minute to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. 10 minutes later, or actually 5 minutes later, that is, Schwadetsky would make it 2-0 as he scored here from Bronico to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. But 9 minutes later, the Union got one back. It's Quinn Sullivan scoring from Carranza here to make it 2-1 in favor of Charlotte. And Ayimiro, we've seen this story before from Charlotte. And I'm pretty sure Charlotte fans probably have seen this story before where, they have a multiple goal lead. It looked like things were going well. And now they gave up one back. And now it seems like they're in park the bus mode, which most of the time just does not work out for this Charlotte team. Though Blake did deny Capetti from close range before the post, actually denying Jones off the third for Charlotte. And I think this was kind of a game where, there was something a little different where, Charlotte, you would expect them to just kind of bunker and hope that they can hold on to the 2-1 lead. But in this one, at least they did try to get that third goal. At least Christian Latanzio team didn't just kind of sit back and hope and pray to get the 2-1 lead. And again, they were looking to try to get that third goal, trying to put this game out of reach. But even when they try to do something different, the same result happened again. As in the fourth minute of stoppage time, a penalty was given to the Union as the Nigerian brought down Bizo in the box. I mean, yeah, when you have your striker basically trying to defend, yeah, that can happen too. I mean, there's a reason why you don't see a lot of attacker basically trying to dive in the box because they usually get it wrong. They're not a natural defender to slide in to make a challenge, and that was just a bad challenge there from the brought down Bizo in the box, which that means Gastek steps up and takes the penalty. He's not going to miss a penalty. I mean, he's been perfect so far this season, and he continued to be perfect here as he scored to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. Shots in this one, 12 apiece for both of these teams. In fact, the stats were pretty close for both of these teams. 6 shots on goal for the 5 that the Union has, 6 shots off target for the 4 that Charlotte has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to the 1 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that the Union has in this game. And again, it's just the same story this season. Charlotte in winning position, dropping points. We saw it with Columbus last season, and yeah, they're unfortunately for Charlotte fans. The bad news is that Columbus team did not make it to the playoffs, and actually they didn't make it into the playoffs in the most spectacular way with them once again blowing one last lead, so they give their fans more pain to suffer even through the off season of missing out on the playoffs, and you're thinking maybe that's going to be the case for Charlotte, and especially it doesn't help the fact that Charlotte has to play against Miami in their last two game, and you know that those kind of game, even if one of them is not going to have Messi, because of the international break. Yeah, those are going to be big playoff 6 pointer, and they got to stop doing this because if they do that against Miami, Miami is definitely going to capitalize. Especially, I really think that on that decision day game, that game between Charlotte and Miami, that should be a game that usually there are some games that's gonna be a key matchup. I think that's going to be the game that's going to be highlighted and maybe even broadcast on Fox because I think Fox does have 2 games to broadcast on decision day. That's probably one that they're going to broadcast because of how big playoffs they could be heading into that final day. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Columbus and Chicago. So this game was over after 23 minutes. Or shall I say, Cucho Hernandez versus the Chicago Fire because Cucho was just this was basically his game. Like he basically took over this game early, and even though he scored a hat trick in this one, he easily had 4 or 5 goals in this game. Speaking of which, in the first half, 4 minutes in, a penalty was given to Columbus as VAR deemed that Rossi was brought down by Brady there, which Kuso steps up to take the penalty, and he slots it home to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. Not long after, another penalty was given to Columbus, as this time it's Suke, the one that brought down Yaboa in the box. Now, they did go to VAR to check whether or not there was a potential dog so on Suke, and I believe because of the fact that there was a defender near his area. That's why they didn't give it as a straight red and a dog. So yeah, the good news for Suke is that he only gets yellow for that. The bad news for him and his team is that Cucho is a step up to take the penalty again, and just like the first one, he slots that one home to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. And then 8 minutes later, he completed the hat trick as he scored here from Gressel to make it 3-0 in favor of Columbus. That is by far the fastest hat trick that is scored by any player this season. In fact, that's probably the fastest hat trick we have seen in a while in MLS. And that yeah, I mean, just it just this kind of also just feels like a very Chicago Fire-esque game where we know that the Fire, there's been times that they've been playing well on the road, but then they also make some boneheaded play and just simply self-destruct, and it feels like they didn't even waste time to do so. Like 23 minutes in, this looked like it was done. And by the way, because I was in LA, I wasn't able to watch these games. But have I actually watched these game ahead of time? I would like to thank the Columbus crew for basically getting this game done and dusted because I pretty much don't really need to keep an eye on this one too much, knowing the fact that this one is pretty much well done. And I'm pretty sure Chicago Fire fans probably turn off the TV in the 23rd minute, and I wouldn't blame them because of how they're you just kind of simply think that this game is all done. And even though Columbus had that collapse against Orlando, they're probably not going to do so in this game. And I even wrote, well, Columbus, they were looking on their way to clinch a playoff spot, which we saw a couple of teams did clinch their playoff spot. Columbus, of course, is one of them. Chicago looks like they're on their way of missing it again, and it feels like we're in for the typical September collapse that we always see for the Chicago Fire team, missing out on the playoffs just as they give their fans hope again. Though Jimenez did hit it wide from close range before he just puts it wide from close. Cucho then go for number 4, but he is denied by Brady in the 4th-minute stoppage time. And again, Cucho is feeling it. Like he was not done in terms of his hat trick. He tried to make it number 4 or even number 5 in this one. In fact, in the second half, it continues because in search of his 4th goal, he would hit the side netting from close range in the 54th minute before Rossi would miss wide from close range. And again, just no mercy shown by this Columbus team. Like they were pounding on the door for the 4th goal. Brady would then deny Rossi from a point blank effort. I mean, I gotta feel bad for Chris Brady in this game. Like his defense was basically non-existent in this one. And to make matter worse, Shaqiri would get his second yellow card, which adds the another legacy of a huge bust that you got to consider with the fact that the Fire decided to sign Shaqiri in that big of a contract. I mean, again, when you look at some of the biggest busts in the league, I think Shaqiri is going to go down in that list. But really, as the time winds down, again, it feels like the game was truly done. I mean, it was really truly done in in the first 23 minutes. But both of these teams they just kind of feel like, well, now let's just get this game over with. Let's just hope that we can stay fresh for the weekend's match and not have any injury. Though Molino did put it wide from a long range effort, and in the end, Columbus with an easy 3-0 win against Chicago. And the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 8 that the Fire has, 1 shots on goal compared to 4 that Columbus had, 10 shots off target compared to 4 that Chicago has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession that the Chicago Fire has. And like I said, Columbus with this win, they clinch a playoff spot, which has to be a huge relief for Crew fans, knowing what happened last season. But looking at how they've been playing under Will Fernandes, they have well deserved to make it to the playoffs. And I guarantee you, when we get to the playoffs, this Columbus Crew team, it's going to be very fun to watch them play in the playoffs. I mean, they have been probably the most watchable team this season, and I'm glad that they are now going to make it to the playoffs. And as a neutral, able to watch them play some fun soccer in the playoffs too. But speaking of playoffs for the Chicago Fire, that looks like it's going to the wayside again. And again, it's sad. It really is, and I really feel bad for this for any Chicago Fire fans that's been rooting for the team. I mean, it's almost like a definition of insanity. Every single season, you just thought that this team would give you some hope, and then now September hits, and it feels like the Chicago Fire cycle strike again, where as soon as September hits, this team basically simply collapsed, and they have not won a single game ever since they made their exit of the Leeds Cup against America. That being said, moving on in the next one, is DC and Atlanta. So apparently, right now, when you look at the Eastern Conference standing, apparently nobody is running away in terms of the last 2 spot in the Eastern Conference, and the 2 teams that is currently above the red line, it seems like they had their chances of trying to run away with it a little bit. And they haven't do so, and part of that is this game between DC and Atlanta. Because while we talk about how Atlanta was incredible in the game against Inter Miami. The reason why I've said that, as much as it's very easy to say that those 3 words called Atlanta is clearly back, they haven't really had those kind of consistent performance where they can follow up into the next game. And really, in this game, I think they were very fortunate that they got a point out of this game against DC. So early on, they were definitely on the front foot, and they definitely carry that momentum that they had in the last game when the post actually denied Yakimakis from close range before Bono denied Saba from close. Again, Atlanta was on the front foot again. It seems like the result that they had in the last game is carrying into this one. And as a result, in the 14th minute, they would get the opening goal. It's Saba. He scored from Wolf to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead before Benteke would look to respond, but he puts it high from close range. By the way, after when Atlanta took the 1-0 lead, little did we know that, yeah, they would have very little chance after this. This is when DC really started to take over this game. Durkin then hits a weak shot right to Guzan before Fajardo last one into the sand as he was clean on goal there. Yeah, that's one that Fajardo would love to have back. I mean, you got to put that one on target when you have a good opportunity like that. But again, DC with a good response. They were now the one that was trying to get the equalizer. But the question is, can they find their clinical finishing, which was a big problem for DC in this one. Fajardo then had a free header, but he missed wide there. And yeah, DC, despite they had their moments, it's still 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. In the second half, they continue to press for the equalizer. Perini would then hits one right to Guzan from long range. Not much really happened in the first couple of minutes of the second half, which I thought that favorites Atlanta because, they were kind of under siege a little bit after scoring the opening goal. And it looked like they gave away a penalty when a penalty was given to DC, but they go to VAR to see whether or not there was potentially an offside before a foul that occurred, and there was. So yeah, for Atlanta, they got away with that one there. But again, DC they continue to press for the equalizer. Assad was trying to score against his former team, but he hits one right to Guzan before Perini would hit one wide from close range. Again, DC were pressing again for the equalizer, and Atlanta, you can see they were holding on for dear life. Like they were under siege again, but unfortunately they weren't able to hold on because in the 80th minute, Perini, who of course was denied of his first career MLS goal a couple of games against the Quakes, he was not denied this time. He scored from Click to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and well, he deserved to for Perini because I thought he played a good game in this one, and he had some big opportunity to finally break through his first career MLS goal. And then Guzan would deny Hurtado in the front post, and again, the momentum was all with DC. Like they were hungry to try to get 3 points because at the end of the day, 1 point is not enough for this DC team in terms of trying to create a bit of a buffer for them to help boost their playoff chances. Benteke then heads it wide from close range before Mascara in the 6 minute stoppage time. It looked like he stole it for Atlanta as he puts it into the back of net. The problem was the flag was up when that goal went in because of offside, and I thought DC got away with another one. So as much as DC were the better team, at least for the majority of this game ever since Atlanta got the 1-0 lead, they definitely got away with a couple bad mistakes, and here was one of them. I mean, just a terrible back pass there, gave it straight to Mascara, but unfortunately he was in an offside position. And yeah, in the end, Atlanta they hold on to win 1-1 in this one. The shots in this game, 19 shots compared to just 6 that Atlanta has. But here's the problem for DC: only 4 of them was on goal. In fact, both of these teams had 4 shots on goal. They had 12 shots off target in this one. So again, as I said before many times this season, it doesn't matter how many shots you put. Like that's lovely to put on the stats, but when you don't put that one on target, yeah, it's pretty clear that's probably the big reason why your team ain't gonna get 3 points. Free shots that was blocked, but none that Atlanta has, and possession wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that DC has in this game. And as I said, for DC again, just a huge missed opportunity in this one. I mean, I know they were down 1-0 for a very long time, but judging by how they played, they should have got the 3 points. And these are going to be points that especially when you're playing at home, these are the points you have to get, since DC is not really a good road team either. But for Atlanta again, I also think that maybe you could also say that after that big win against Miami, we kind of had a feeling they were going to have a little bit of a letdown. And while they did carry that momentum a little bit in the first 15 minutes, yeah, that the letdown was definitely there for a majority of this game. But hey, at least they still were able to salvage a draw in this game and are still in a very good position of making the playoffs this season. That being said, moving on in the next match is Miami against Toronto. So obviously, there is definitely concern for Miami fans coming out of this game after Messi and Jordi Alba came out with an injury. Though, again, there has been no word in terms of what exactly is the injury that Messi suffered. It looks like it's a lower calf injury from what I heard, but it looks like maybe it's just kind of a precautionary very kind of concern, because after all, you definitely want to protect your golden goose. Like the last thing Miami would want, and really the last thing MLS want, is Messi potentially get injured during this playoff run, because that does makes a good story. But despite the fact that Messi was not playing for the latter part of the first half and the entire part of the second half, Miami continued to pounce, and it kind of helped when they're playing against a Toronto team that pretty much is in see you next season mode. Now, early on, Martinez would hit one wide from close range in the 4th minute, and unsurprisingly, again, Miami has lots of possession. That's exactly what they've been doing ever since Tata Martino has took over this team and has dictating the play. Though counter did deny curve, but it actually bounced right back to DeAndre Clare, and yeah, this is one that he wants to have back. I mean, an empty net there, he's got to put that one on frame. I mean, he hits the post here, which is unlucky, but that's one that again. I feel like this game, when you look at the scoreline, I think it kind of also was a little bit misleading, the fact that Toronto actually had some decent chances, and a lot of that has to do with Miami turning the ball over badly. But again, when you're a bad team, you're not going to get that luck, and there's a reason why TFC is dead last right now, with missing those big opportunity against a much superior team that is Miami, at least recently that is. And again, I thought Miami got away with one there because again, that came off a terrible giveaway from Busquets. It won't be the first time, or it won't be the last time I mentioned there's a bad mistake from Miami at the back that almost cost them a goal. Though in the 18th minute, Messi would hit one straight to Romero before he puts it over the bar in the near post in the 23rd minute. And then in the 36th minute, this is where a lot of Miami fans, and I'm pretty sure even some of the MLS media is very concerned, because yeah, Messi and Alba was subbed off in this one. Again, I think it maybe is precautionary reason, but they did say that Messi did go to the locker room, and again, we'll see whether the injury is serious or not. And this also kind of creates a very, very interesting situation this weekend, because this weekend Miami has a big game against Orlando City, and that again, that knowing the fact that Miami just cannot afford to drop points anymore this season if they want to make a playoff push. That's definitely a big game. But also you got to remember next week, Miami does have that U.S. Open Cup game at home. So yeah, it's a precarious situation right now for this Miami team to see what they're gonna do in terms of trying to balancing all the fixture congestion that is going on right now with this team. But that being said, even though they don't have a Messi for the remainder of this game, no problem for them because in the third minute of stoppage time, Farias would score what is definitely a goal of the week contention here to make it 1-0 in favor of Miami. And also, this won't be the last time I mention Miami score a goal that could be considered goal of the week. I mean, they scored some big golazo in this one against Toronto. But we do head to halftime with Miami leading 1-0. In the second half, Insigne would hit one right to counter. And again, it came off a bad turnover for Miami that Miami got away with it. And in the 53rd minute, they kind of took advantage of TFC not being clinical in front of goal, as Robert Taylor, a guy that has been reborn since Messi has come to this team, probably the guy that is most reborn since Messi comes to this team. He scored here from Allen to make it 2-0 in favor of Miami. Almost said Jordi Alba there, but he's no longer in this game. As I mentioned, he was subbed off in the first half. And again, goal of the week contention again. I mean, Robert Taylor is a confident man when he can strike it very well like that. Then Taylor was looking for another one because why not? He's red hot right now, but this time he puts it high. And then in the 73rd minute, here's another guy that has been completely reborn ever since Messi has come to this team. Benjamin Kamaski. He scored here from Taylor to make it 3-0 in favor of Miami. And again, yeah, and, I thought that there was also some really the optional defending there from Toronto. Again, not surprised because that's been kind of sums up their season. Romero then denied Allen shot, which took a deflection before the post. Would denied who is it? Oh God, I can't really see it. And this is kind of embarrassing the fact that I can't really see my on writing there. Oh, Insigne from long range there in the 83rd minute. And again, that kind of sums up the season for TFC and really sums up this game for TFC. Again, they had some opportunity in this game to tie the game up, or actually not tie the game up, but at least make this game interesting. But no, every time when TFC missed a big opportunity, Miami pounced on it, and they did it again in the 87th minute. It's Robert Taylor again. He scored from Farias to make it 4-0 in favor of Inter Miami. So again, the Miami supporting cast definitely stepping up big in the absence of Messi in the second half. And in the end, they get an easy 4-0 win against TFC. The shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 8 that Toronto has, 5 shots on goal compared to 2 that TFC had, 4 shots off target compared to 5 that Miami has, 3 shots out of block compared to 2 that Toronto has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Toronto has in this game. And that gap is now down to 4 points. And again, you know, it's still going to be interesting to see for the rest of the season. I know there's going to be a lot of people said that they're pretty much guaranteed to make it to playoffs, and I'm probably guilty of saying that maybe a couple weeks ago. But when you look at some of the fixture that they are about to incur, they're going to be in for some really tough game. I mean, this is probably the easiest game that they have in the remaining part of the schedule, besides playing Charlotte twice down the stretch, which I think, again, like what I said in the first game, that is probably a game that could decide the fate if Miami is going to make it to the playoffs. But you can only take care of business of the team that you play, and they took care of business in this game against Toronto, and now the game against Orlando City, and then the one on Wednesday have another chance to win another trophy against Houston. Yeah, that should be very interesting to see how they approach it. And both of those games are not easy too, because Orlando, they have been red hot coming into this game. Although I'll talk about how they basically fell into a trap game in their game in the midweek. And then Houston, as I'll talk about later, they are also red hot heading into that U.S. Open Cup game. So yeah, that should be very interesting to see how Tata Martino will approach these next two games, whether or not if we're going to see Messi play both of these games. I mean, surely that has to happen with Messi playing that game against Orlando City. Like, the league is really hoping, like, if there's one way to generate ratings and stuff like that, and knowing that it's kind of a rematch of the Leeds Cup round of 32 match that we saw earlier these last couple of months. Yeah, that should be interesting to see how Miami will approach this. That being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games as part of this mega 14 game review that I'm going to do for the midweek action. So moving on, we got Montreal and FC Cincinnati, and like DC, for Montreal, big miss opportunity into this game, grabbing 3 points. And I will say that unlike DC, where they probably will be the more disappointing team out of both of these games that are currently in the bubble of the Eastern Conference playoff race, because DC missed a lot of chances and should have won that game against Atlanta. For Montreal, I think they were kind of fortunate the fact that they were holding on to this 1-0 lead because Cincinnati put a lot of pressure in this game against this Montreal team. And, just as you thought that they were just about did enough to hold on to all 3 points, yeah, they gave up a late goal. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Saliba hits it wide from close range before the first shot for Cincinnati saw Moreno puts it wide on the curling effort. Not much really happened as the shots were only one apiece through 30 minutes into this game, though Duke did pulls it wide from long range before RES puts it wide on a free header. Hagelin then hits it wide from the corner as I thought the chances were starting to build up as, I feel like maybe both of these teams would just kind of feeling each other out, at least in the first 30 minutes or so. But both of them were looking for the opener for halftime, but we do head to the halftime whistle with this scoreless between both of these teams. It wouldn't stay scoreless for long heading into the second half, as in the 54th minute, Mahalo Poku will find the opener for Montreal as he scored from Lapinainen to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. This is one that I feel like Celentano should have done better. I mean, I think a lot of that is due to the fact that, he kind of was backpedaling. I don't think he was expect Opoku to shoot from that long of a range as he was kind of off his lines there. And, credit to Opoku, I think he saw that Saotano was backtracking and that hey, why not strike one? Because he's not really in a position to trying to save it, and because Saotano was also backpedaling there, he reacted late in terms of saving it, and it went past him there. So yeah, Montreal, they'll take it. It's 1-0 in favor of them. Barriel then looked for an instant response, but he fires it high, and again, this is where Cincinnati really took over this game and really was pressing for the equalizer. Vasquez then hits it right to see Walsh before the post, denying Arias from close range. As again, Cincinnati, they were pressing for the equalizer, but you just kind of have a sense maybe is this going to be one of those days that they just don't have that finishing touch, and maybe Montreal might got away with the fact that they were absorbing just so much pressure down the stretch. Acosta then curls one right to see Waz, and really as the time winds down, the bus was firmly parked for Montreal. Like they were parking the bus, they were looking to hang on for dear life to trying to get a massive 3 points. Barrio would then hits one right to Siwas, and just as you thought that they did enough, a penalty was conceded in the third minute of stoppage time. And it's a shame that Siwas made a mistake here where he comes off the lines there. He didn't need to do so. He comes off his lines. He kind of got himself in no man's land and had to bring down Baji in the box. And I say it's unfortunate because I thought Siwas had a good game up to that point, and he's had a good season. He's been having a very underrated this season, probably one of the most underrated goalkeeper in the league this year. But yeah, this is not his best moment here. And as a result, that allowed Costa to take the penalty. He's not going to miss the penalty. I mean, I've talked about how there's been some uh, players that has just been clinical from the penalty spot. I talk about Daniel Gastak. Lucho also is that player too. I mean, he hasn't missed a penalty, I think, even at all this season, and he continues that perfect run as he scored here to tie the game up at one apiece to salvage a point for Cincinnati. And yeah, that was the final score of this game as the shots in this one. 5 shots compared to 14 that Cincinnati has. 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that Montreal had. 6 shots off target compared to 2 that Montreal has. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Cincinnati has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Montreal has in this game. So for Montreal, as much as at least their draw doesn't sting at or their 1-1 draw doesn't sting as much because DC, as I mentioned earlier, they should have won that game against Atlanta and that they could have got all 3 points. On the other hand, you can say that Montreal should have got all 3 points with the way that it seems like they look like they've done enough. And anytime when you can see the late goal, whether you're playing at home or on the road, it always stings. And it stings even more when you're playing on a home. And that just like DC, this is a Montreal team that does not do well at home. They really rely heavily on their home form to get them into the playoffs, and that's another points drop at Stade Saputo, and that that's something they just cannot do for the rest of the season if they want to themselves above the red line, especially a certain team from South Florida is charging to try to get in the standings, and also maybe a certain team in New York is also trying to charge to the playoffs too. Because moving on in the next match is NYCFC. So yeah, they are definitely alive. NYCFC. I mean, that's the thing about the Eastern Conference playoff race, and you can say maybe the same about the Western Conference playoff race. Although the Western Conference is just so jumbled up right now, you could have like a good run and you can easily get yourself in second position. But in the Eastern Conference playoff race, I mean, again, it also doesn't take much for you to find some new hope, and it feels like NYCFC has had that new hope after getting a big win in this game against Orlando City. Now, early on, Galese would deny Pereira, who tried to score against his former team, but again he was denied by Galese. Andres Pereira, man, he had a good game in this one. Like he looked like he was definitely up for it in this game against his former team Orlando City, because he then puts it wide from close range in the 6th minute. And again, I thought it was a great start for NYCFC. They definitely came to play in this one. And again, they desperately need to get a win in this one to stay in playoff contention. The first shot for Orlando did see Angulo hits one right to freeze before Enrique would miss wide from close range. But then in the 37th minute, penalty was given to NYCFC after VAR deemed that Enrique brought down Rodriguez in the box. So Rodriguez basically steps up to take the penalty. He missed it. It was a great save there from Galese, but Mounset Bakra, credit to him. He was the first to react. He had a spectacular diving header to put that one in. And again, this is great news for NYCFC, because this is exactly what you hope with this new striker that they got from Moussa Bakra. And as I mentioned before, ever since that he finally broke through and scored his first goal, he started to score now in these last couple of games, and this is the thing that they've been missing so much in this season. They need a Tati Castellanos level number 9 this season. And while I'm not gonna say Monza Baccara is anywhere near Tati Castellanos kind of range, or even close to David Villa kind of range, he's doing the job that NYCFC definitely hoped that he was going to do when he came into this team. Now, in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Fear then looked to answer, but he puts that one out, or actually not Fiera. Pereira puts that one high. There's no Fiera in Orlando City. Forgive another game. Again, that can happen when you're basically doing a 14 game review. But we do head to halftime with NYCFC leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Galese would deny Bakra of his second from long range before he denied Pereira from close range. So yeah, Pedro Galese, he was a busy man in this game. But again, it was a lively start for NYCFC. Again, you just feel like they wanted more in this game, NYCFC. And as I'll mention a little bit later, Orlando, I think they were maybe looking forward to that Miami game a little bit too soon. And again, anytime when you have these big games coming up, and especially it's happening in the middle of the week, it can be a trap game. And I feel like Orlando fell in the trap in this game. Pereira then missed wide from the corner in the 67th minute, but then in the 68th minute, NYCFC got their crucial second goal, and it's actually a guy that they've been hoping to finally break through, but he finally broke through in this game, and that of course is Talles Magno. I mean, it's been a very disappointing season for Talles Magno, but he scored here from Jason to make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC. Sands then heads it wide from close range, and again, NYCFC was firing on all cylinders. They were looking to try to get that third goal. And then in the 79th minute, Martins would head it wide from close range before Baccara would put it high from long range. Pereira then had one last opportunity to score against his former team, but he puts it wide from close range. So yeah, he's gonna be a little bit disappointed that he had the chances to score against his former team and didn't quite do so in this one. But what he will not be disappointed, and certainly for NYCFC, is getting a massive 3 points. 2-0 win that they had in this game. They're only now 2 points back off the playoff position. The shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 11 that Orlando has. 2 shots on goal compared to 7 that NYCFC had. 8 shots off target for the 6 that Orlando City has. 3 shots that was blocked for the 1 that NYCFC had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to the 40% possession that NYCFC has. So for NYCFC, they've been on a relatively good mini run, and again, that's all it takes. You don't need to go on a crazy run because of how tight the standing is. As long as you get a good mini run, there's definitely hope. And I'm pretty sure for NYCFC, a team that looked like that hope was dead and buried a couple of weeks ago, now it seems like there is after this big victory, and that well, you can say that for them. I don't think you can say that to the other New York team, because moving on in the next match is the Red Bulls and Austin FC. So again, the Red Bulls, they need to have 3 points in this game to keep pace in the playoff contention. Although I would argue that this was a game where both teams needed the 3 points, and you can say this is kind of the desperation derby from the midweek action, and both teams don't get it. They get a 1-1 draw in this one. In fact, coming into this game, I think it was kind of more surprising there was a goal in this one, because both of these teams has had problems in terms of scoring. No, early on, Manuel did miss wide from long range before Yearwood would miss wide from close range. Again, the Red Bulls were all on the front foot. They were looking to get the opener, and they get it in the 8th minute. It's actually they didn't score the goal themselves, but actually their opposition. So when you're struggling to score goals, I mean, hey, sometimes let the opposition score for you, and that's the case in this one as Rigoni puts it into his own net. I mean, yeah, Rigoni, that it's been a rough season for him, and it really has been rough ever since he's arrived to Austin. He has really now kind of started to label as a big boss for this Austin FC team, and that it doesn't help the fact that he put it ball into his own net. I mean, it was a great finish, but yeah, wrong net there from Rigoni. But after that, not much really happened. Again, not a big surprise. Again, if you want entertainment, this was not the game that you want to watch, because you know both of these teams have struggled on the attacking end, and it kind of showcased that there was really barely any chances, at least early in this one. Nealis then puts it high from close range before Lucanius would hits one right to Stuver in the 36th minute. The shots were 6-0 for the Red Bulls up to that point, and then in the 44th minute, really out of nowhere, Driussi would score from Valencia to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And I say it's kind of out of nowhere because that was really the first shot for Austin FC. It was completely against the run-up play. Austin pretty much were looking nothing threatening on the attack, and yeah, out of nowhere they got the equalizer. And what's even, it hurts the Red Bulls even more, came right on the stroke of halftime. So in a half that they kind of control in the first half, that is got to be a killer. The fact that literally on one of the first real good attack for Austin, they concede. So we go to the second half, and in the second half, Edelman would puts it just wide from long range. Again, not really much happened. Either in the second half, neither team really got going on the attack. Driussi then puts it wide on the volley before Kabiza would hits one right to Stuvert. Lucanius then hits one right to Stuvert before Amaya puts a one-hopper right to Stuvert. So, yeah, the Red Bulls are creating chances. Here's the problem. This I said a lot of hits one hopper or hits one right to Stuvert. A lot of those shots were not strong shot whatsoever. It was just easy catching practice for Brad Stuver. And in fact, I know at the end of the day that's of course still going to count as a save when a goalkeeper catch an easy one from a weak shot from an opposition, and it feels like he was kind of stat padding Stuver in terms of those save. But yeah, not really a lot of threatening chance you could say that the Red Bulls had despite putting it on target. And then there was a check to see whether there's a red card for Lima after he fouled Lucanias there, which VAR says no, it's only worthy of a yellow card. And yeah, in the end, in a relatively forgettable game, it ends in a 1-1 draw, and the shots in this one, 15 shots committed, just 3 that Austin has. So yeah, it's safe to say that Austin is probably fortunate that they got a point out of this game, because yeah, they didn't show up in this one, and again, they were thankful that they were playing against a Red Bulls team themselves. We're also having problems in terms of scoring goals. 4 shots on goal for the 1 that Austin had. 7 shots off target for the 2 that Austin has. 4 shots that was blocked for the none that Austin has in possession-wise. 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Austin has in this one. And it's really hard to say that both of these teams is going to make a run for the playoffs. I mean, I know there's still a chance, and especially for Austin because of how tight the West is. But when you look at how they've been playing, I mean, you can't really say that win is coming anytime soon. And the same goes for the Red Bulls. I feel like this maybe finally be the season where their playoff streak will come to an end. With that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Houston and Vancouver. So as I mentioned, Houston, they're about to play a U.S. Open Cup from a week time, and they make sure that they come into that U.S. Open Cup in a red hot form and make sure that it's not just going to be a walkover for Inter Miami, because yeah, this was a very impressive performance by the Houston Dynamo. Even though I know this is a home game for them and they've been very good this season at at home. This is a Vancouver team that have won 4 straight coming into this game on the road, and they have been a red hot coming into this one. And to be fair, Vancouver did have their chances in this game, and that I think this was also one of those games where the scoreline was kind of a little bit misleading, but this was also a game where Houston was just absolutely clinical in terms of their finishing. And it started in the 13th minute when Hector Herrera would score here. And, well, it definitely took a fortunate deflection off the wall and goes in on the free kick. I mean, with the way that Houston has been playing this season and in such a good form, you're gonna get that fortune when you're in a good form, like Houston has. So yeah, the Dynamo let 1-0. Paul did try to respond on the free kick himself, but he hits it right to Clark. And then Ahmet would hits one right to Clark in the 30th minute. And I thought it was a good response for Vancouver. They were looking to try to get the equalizer, though Artur did hit one right to Takaoka, as I wrote that, for Clark had to deny Vite from long range, and then Gall would hit one right to Clark. So again, some chances for Vancouver in this one. But unfortunately, they found themselves 2-0 down as Griffin Dorsey would score from Bear to make it 2-0 in favor of Houston, and that was pretty bad defending from the Whitecaps perspective. I mean, Dorsey just pretty much uncontested, walk into the box. There was nobody really there to try to challenge it. I mean, I get Griffin Dorsey is not known to be a goal scorer, but you cannot give him that much respect and just let him walk into the 18-yard box and take a pot shot like that. That's just pretty bad defending there for the Whitecaps perspective. And again, they'll be very disappointed because, again, despite them not playing that badly in this game in the first half, they find themselves 2-0 down. Now in the second half, Gall then fires it wide from long range before Laborda would heads it wide from close. White then puts it wide from the cross, as again, the Whitecaps that were looking promising, trying to get one back. But anytime when the Whitecaps looked like they were going to get back in the game, again, Houston, they were just so clinical in this one. And in the 72nd minute, I think this is only like their fifth shot, or actually no, not their fifth shot, but this is like the fourth shot of the game. They would score again as Franco would score from Smith here to make it 3-1 in favor of Houston. Again, not great defending there from the Vancouver Whitecaps. I mean, Ivan Franco just find himself wide open in the box, and Brad Smith, he starts to look like the Brad Smith from the Seattle Sounders these last couple of weeks for the Dynamo, just putting some absolute dime in the box from the wing area. The Ole chant was definitely ringing out. The Dynamo faithful, they were definitely love to see what their team is playing, and why not? I mean, they've been playing some of the best soccer that I think the Dynamo has played for a very long time. I mean, I don't think this team has been that entertaining to watch since that team that made it into the playoffs in 2017. And again, I said it before and I'll say it again. In the Euro 2023, I cannot believe a Ben Olsen team can play that entertaining part of the soccer, and I think that just kind of makes even DC fans feel even more frustrated and even feel more sick to their stomach. The fact that, well, where has this been? Kind of version of Ben Olsen when he was still coaching for our team before eventually his time with DC was cut loose. And in the 84th minute, again, Houston is being very clinical tonight when Aliou Ibrahim would get on the score sheet, a guy that has been state-been at time this season. He would get on the score sheet to make it 4-0 in favor of the Dynamo. The only blemish for the Dynamo is that they didn't get a clean sheet, as in the 90th minute, it would be Sivichenko that scored an own goal. They originally gave it to Berhalter there, but it looks like Sivichenko did get the last touch, and Sebastian Berhalter's shot wasn't even on target. But still, yeah, in the end, that was the only blemish, as in the end, Houston with a good 4-1 win. I wouldn't say a dominant win because, again, Vancouver, they had their chances in this one, and it just kind of feel like this was one of those games where the team that won in this game and the team that won in Valley just were more clinical against a team that had their moments. They just aren't able to put the ball into the back net. And the stat shows it too. 11 shots for the 6 that Houston had. 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Vancouver had. 6 shots off target for the 1 that the Dynamo has. No shots that was blocked for the 1 that Vancouver has. And possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Houston has. So again, for Vancouver, again, I know the scoreline seems very seems like they lost in a big one, but I didn't think they played badly. And while Vanni Sartini will be disappointed that the roll winning streak is over, this is still a very dangerous Vancouver team. They just ran into a Houston team that, again, they've been red hot lately, and they've shown once again in this game. That being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games as part of this mega review that I'm doing for these midweek action. All right, so moving on, we got Sporting KC and Nashville, and this has to hurt for Sporting KC because just as you thought that over the weekend they got that big 1-0 win against Minnesota United, just as you thought things were starting to turn around, then they lay an absolute egg in this game against Nashville SC. And it feels like this game for Nashville, it's starting to feel like the Nashville SC of all, where this is kind of what they do on the road. This is a very Gary Smith kind of type of Nashville SC road game for them. But early on, Pico would hit one wide as that was Nashville first shot. Also, let me just move this board a little bit closer. Also, I just dropped my notebook to keep the timesheet that is. But in the ninth minute, the first shot for Sporting C. Polito hits one right to Willis before Russell would hit it wide from long range. But then in the 29th minute, Papa Pico would score. He scored from Lovett to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. And guess what? It came off of a set piece. It's the bread and butter for Nashville. You know they love those set pieces. And that, yeah, it was just shocking defending from Sporting KC. Like, I think if you're Peter Remise, that was literally one of the things that you just got to watch out when you're facing against Nashville. In fact, I think that's pretty much bulletin board material for every team when they face Nashville. Not only you got to watch out for the transition, but you got to watch out for the set pieces because they have players on that team that are dangerous in terms of set pieces. And while I didn't think Fafa Pico was one of them, he absolutely buries that to make it 1-0 if they're in Nashville. Rutherford did try to respond for Sporting KC, but he hits it wide for the corner, and we head to halftime with Nashville leading 1-0. Second half, Amelia would deny Mukhtar from long range. Not much really happened in the second half, but again, this kind of favorites Nashville. That's exactly what they want you to do. They want to grind out and resort, not letting Sporting KC have a lot of possession. And I also thought that, in terms of how this game plays, I feel like this was never going to be a favorable game for Sporting KC because they're a team that likes to not possession. But when you face against a team like Nashville that don't want possession and want to sit in that low block, and we have seen Sporting KC have struggled to break down low block, yeah, this is kind of the game. You thought that maybe Sporting KC could be in trouble for it, but in the 63rd minute, Davis would pulls it wide from close range, and then in the 65th minute, Mukhtar would score. He scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of Nashville. Again, Sporting KC just a mistake here. Didn't clear their lines. They cleared it right to Mukhtar, and yeah, that's the last guy you want to clear it right to and have a chance to score here because we know how clinical Hani Mukhtar is. So yeah, that made it 2-0. Russell then looked for a response, but he was denied by Willis. And then in the 76th minute, Nashville were making sure that it was all 3 points for them as Jack Mayer would score from Mukhtar to make it 3-0 in favor of Nashville. And once again, it's the set pieces. And again, that was kind of the story of the night. I mean, Nashville was just being clinical in terms of set pieces. Is very Gary Smith kind of type of soccer besides the counterattack that they likes to do. And yeah, in the end, Nashville, they win 3-0 in this one. Shots in this one, 9 shots for the 12 that Sporting KC had, 2 shots on goal for the 4 that Nashville has, 4 shots off target for the 7 that Sporting KC had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Nashville has. Possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Nashville has in this game. And like I said, it feels like a gut punch for a Sporting KC fan because just as you thought that there's hope that things are going to turn around, and then this looks like it's a little flashback of when they were a very bad team to come out the stretch because yeah they were just off in this game. It almost felt like that Minnesota game that was kind of a game where maybe this team thought that things were going so well that yeah they forgot that they still have to keep it up because this was a pretty big let off after that Minnesota game, and that yeah they need to bounce back in a big way because there are teams around them that pick up points. They didn't. They lose ground in the playoff race, and I think they're still sitting 11 or 12 in the standings after they were momentarily above the red line last week. With that being said, moving on in the next match is the top of the table matchup between LAFC versus St. Louis. And I will say this. I know, it ends in a 0-0 draw, and you get thinking, well, that did not live up to the hype. I don't think so. I thought this was a good game. I thought that there was that playoff kind of atmosphere kind of game, and you won't be surprised if this could be a playoff matchup that we we see in the playoffs. But that being said, both teams did have their fair amount of chances, and it started in the 4th minute with Leuven hits one right to Crepeau. By the way, Crepeau is back in goal. I mean, he actually was back in goal in that El Tráfico game. I didn't mention him there because he didn't really make a save in that game against the Galaxy. But yeah, he's back now in his second game. He did definitely make some save too because he would then deny Leuven from close range in the 9th minute. St. Louis had a lot of possession early in the game, which again, that's kind of surprising because you would think that LAFC would be the one that control possession, but at the same time, maybe not surprising because St. Louis, they were pressing early. LAFC were definitely finding out that yeah, they were having a tough time in terms of playing out the St. Louis press. And then it looked like it was a penalty for St. Louis, but VAR did check to see whether or not if Chiellini handballed that one in the box. They say no. And then the post denied Oliveira and LAFC the opener, as yeah, that almost was completely against the run of play because up to that point St. Louis was the better team. But that kind of re-energized LAFC a little bit because after that, Bowanga would puts it wide from close range. LAFC have definitely woke up. It kind of felt a very 22 kind of version of LAFC where they can kind of always get off to a slow start, but then eventually they picked it up, and that's what they did in this one. Gonzalez then had a free header and he missed wide from the corner. Yeah, for Mario Gonzalez, it's been kind of rough for him during his time with LAFC. And again, because the fact that he just arrived from LAFC, I can't really put too much judgment in terms of it. I mean, I know some LAFC fans are kind of frustrated with the lack of production that Mario Gonzalez has put, but yeah, I think eventually he will turn around. I think this is just a typical situation where, because he's kind of a little off right now and also coming into a new league, adapting to a new team with new teammates, that's not going to be easy. So, yeah, once he does figure it out, I think he could be a proven goal scorer for this LAFC team. Then there was another shout for a penalty for St. Louis as Makanovich thought that he was brought down by Chiellini there. I think that was a good no call because I think Mitch, I think he kind of went down. I mean, he could have went down originally because it looks like there was a contact before, but he was kind of being too honest. And then by the time he trying to went down again, yeah, the referee's not going to buy toward that. So yeah, no penalty was given again there for St. Louis, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Bouanga would miss wide in the near post before Berkey would deny Chiellini on a bicycle kick. I mean, I cannot believe Giorgio Chiellini did that. Like and if that went in, I would say that that is definitely going to go in contention for goal of the week and maybe even the goal of the year. Well, I would say that's definitely going to be an automatic goal of the week winner because can you imagine Giorgio Chiellini scoring a bicycle kick? I mean, that would be probably the last guy I think in this league that can score a bicycle kick. But here he is, 38 years young, going on his bike trying to score an incredible goal, but he was only denied by Berkey there. Danarin on the other end then hits the side netting. I thought the game started to become wide open, and again, this is where I think if you didn't watch this game and just pay attention to the stats and the scoreline, you wouldn't think that this was actually not as bad of a game as some people say it is. It started to become very end to end. You kind of see why both of these teams are near the top of the standings in the West. Bouanga then hits one right to Berkey before he puts it over the bar in the 84th minute. Ruben then tried to chip Crepeau from about the halfway line. I mean, we've seen that a lot this season. It feels like we've seen it so many times from previous season because it seems like that has worked out more times or not. But Crepeau was able to get back on his lines to catch that. But you kind of had a sense the 3 point was up for grabs. Like, who is going to be the one that gets the 3 points? Both teams has had chances. The answer is no one, because in the end, it ends in a scoreless draw. The shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 12 that St. Louis had. 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that LAFC had. 9 shots off target compared to 5 that St. Louis had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that LAFC has in this game. And there's no doubt St. Louis played much better in this game compared to the last time when they faced against LAFC, and that's understandable because they were very shorthanded in that game against LAFC. But like I said, I won't be surprised. This could be a playoff matchup, and it is a playoff matchup. It's definitely going to be taking place at City Park, knowing St. Louis is probably going to win the West this season. They're going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and yeah, it should be very interesting if both of these teams does meet each other down the line because yeah, I thought it was an entertaining game for a nil-nil game. That is, I thought it definitely had that playoff atmosphere kind of feeling, and I think we won't. As I said, I won't be surprised we could see this matchup in the playoffs not long from now. With that being said, moving on in the next game is Colorado and Seattle. So after Colorado got on a win in their game against New England, in a game where, as much as you might think that's an upset because of how New England has been so dysfunctional, I mean, you're not kind of surprised that Colorado got the win. So can they follow up with another win against Seattle? The answer is no. Seattle, they took care of business, and don't look now, but the Sounders, they're started to heat up a little bit, and this is kind of the Brian Schmetzer special once again, where I think people forget that when they were on that kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say a dynasty run, but on a run where they keep making MLS Cup almost every single year. They always tend to have the habit of getting hot at the right time, and you're starting to see that this Sounders team has started getting hot at the right time, and that besides that loss against Atlanta, coming out of the Leeds Cup break, they have not lost a single game. Early on, Morris would flash it wide on the header before Rusnak hits it wide on the volley. Seattle was on the front foot. They were pressing for the opener. Rodon would puts it wide from close range as the shots were 5-2 for Seattle through 30 minutes. And eventually they put one in. It's Leo Chu scoring from João Paulo here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Seattle Sounders, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Morris was in on goal there, but he was denied by Illich before Rusnak would puts it high and wide from long range. Again, up to this point, it was pretty much all Seattle, and eventually they would make it 2-0. And it's Albert Rusnak scoring from Christian Rodon here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Sounder. Bombito did had a rare opportunity for the Rapids, but he missed wide there. But then in the 80th minute, Cole Bassett would score again for the second game in a row as he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Sounders. So there is maybe a little bright side for the Rapids. Cole Bassett has started to get himself back in form. I mean, it's been a very disappointing season for Cole Bassett. I mean, I remember a couple of years he was on the radar of the national team and then make that jump to Europe. Eventually didn't quite work out, and I thought coming back to Colorado that he's gonna have another great year like he did in his first thing, and that has not quite worked out. But at least in these last couple of games, it has shown that, and he's on the score sheet again. And then Yappy did hits one right to Fry. Speaking of disappointment, Darren Yappy. I mean, again, all the hype about how he was gonna do well, he's gonna be an up and coming player, and I still think that he could be, but man, this has been another disappointing year for him as well. I mean, in general, it's been a disappointing year for the Colorado Rapids. There's no doubt there's gonna be some sweeping changes that is gonna happen. Hopefully with this team. I mean, Rapids fan are I do feel for you. I mean, as a Quakes fan, I do understand and how it feels when you have an owner that just clearly doesn't care about investing in the team. But in the end, they take another loss, which is another familiar sight for the Rapids this season. A 2-1 loss to the Seattle Sounders. The shots in this one is actually it was Danny at 11 shots, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Colorado has, 2 shots off target compared to 6 that Seattle has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that Colorado has, and possession wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And I will also say that during this good run that Seattle has had, they haven't been playing great soccer. In fact, some of the soccer they've been playing has been very bland at best. But if it's get you result, you take it. I mean that's the thing. I mean we said it many times before. There's many different ways to win games and do well in the playoffs. You can play some pretty brand soccer like what we see with the Columbus Crew has had. And then you can also play this kind of soccer for Seattle, some efficient soccer, able to just create enough chances to be clinical in front of goal and become very locked down in terms of the defensive end. And that's what you get with the Seattle Sounders right now. And again, I think this team, I also think that the Seattle Sounders, they probably watch my video talk about teams that most likely is above the red line that's going to miss out on the playoffs. And I said that they were the team that they're going to miss out on the playoffs, even though they were fourth in the standing. They probably watched that video and they took it really personally because ever since that, they have been on a great uniform. So you're welcome, Seattle Sounders fan, in terms of kind of the reverse jink and got this team now to a point where, yeah, they are on their way of making the playoffs once again. And when the Seattle Sounders is in the playoffs, I mean, as crazy how the West and how unpredictable it is, you cannot say the Seattle Sounders is not going to be in contention for that MLS Cup. And again, that's probably bad news for a lot of team in the West because I'm pretty sure a lot of team in the West are probably tired of seeing Seattle always dominate the West year in and year out. And again, last year was kind of a refreshing seeing them not make it. Um, to the playoffs. But that being said, moving on in the next match is RSL and FC Dallas, and yeah, for RSL, I mean the collapse continues. I mean, I've said a couple of games ago after they beat Colorado, yes, they got a much needed win there, but how much is that because of the fact that they were playing the Colorado Rapids, who is already in see you next season mode? Well, it seems like it's probably because they're playing the Colorado Rapids because this free fall just kind of continues. And it didn't look like it was the case. I mean, it looked promising for RSL at least early on. Pass would then deny Oviedo from close range before Krylak would hits one right to pass. Inerentny then hits it high from long ranges. I think that was the first shot for Dallas before Oriola had a chance in the 16th minute, but he missed wide from close range. I thought both of these teams were getting some good opportunity, but this is when RSL started to take over the game a little bit. Pass would then deny Ojeda from close. There was a check to see whether or not if there was a potential red card there, but VAR did see that Krylak foul on O'Brien is not worthy of a red, and it was a pretty dangerous challenge there from Demir Krylak, and I think he might have got away with that one there. But in the 34th minute, McMath did deny Fira, but after he gave it straight to O'Brien, so yeah, that was not a great moment for Zach McMath, and I mean he made a tone of his mistake, but yeah, he definitely got away with one, and it was key too because in the 43rd minute, Chichorango would score from Ojeda to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL. So again, with how things haven't looking so well for RSL, at least their multi-million dollar man Chichorango is scoring goals. I mean that's what Chichorango does. It doesn't matter if he's on a bad team or so, he's gonna continue to score goals, and he's continued to do that for this RSL team. So yeah, that made it 1-0. Also, that came off of a throw-in. So yeah, whenever a goal come off a throw-in, I'm gonna say that's bad defending on the opposition. Like giving up goals that come off a throw-in should not be happening if you have a good defensive shape. And that yeah, for Dallas that was pretty bad defending on their part. So yeah, they found themselves 1-0 down, but in the second half they turned the game around, and also this is where RSL started to go into a bit of a meltdown mode because it started in the 56th minute with Ariola scoring from Palmico to make it 1-1 in this one. I said it before and I'll say it again. Ariola and Ferreira is going to be the key to this team on the attack. I mean, as much as they have really struggled this season scoring goals, those two guys needs to get going. And guess what? Both of those guys were on the score sheet in this one. And just a little spoiler alert too. But in the 60th minute, a penalty was then given to Dallas after Silva brought down O'Brien in the box, which Fiera steps up to take the penalty, and he slots that one home to make it 2-1 in favor of Dallas. Savarino did look to respond, but he was robbed by Paz here. That was a big save there from Martin Paz, who was definitely on his game in this one. And that's key because just a couple of minutes later, Fiera would get his second goal. This time he scored from O'Brien to make it 3-1 in favor of Dallas. And yeah, that came off of just a terrible turnover from RSL. Like those turnovers, if you gave the ball away cheaply like that, you are going to get punished most of the time. And RSL got punished there. All of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, it's 3-1. The meltdown mode is definitely on for RSL. Gomez then puts one right to pass, and really as the time winds down, RSL, they were trying to set up a grandstand finish, trying to maybe get one back to make things interesting. Hidalgo then puts one way high and wide, which kind of sums up RSL night before Lofferson would miss wide from close range in the fifth minute of stoppage time. And yeah, in the end, Dallas, they got a big roll win here. They're now back above the red line with this big 3 points. And the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 7 that Dallas had, 4 shots on goal for the 7 that RSL had, 6 shots off target for the 3 that Dallas had, no shots on block for the 4 that RSL had, and possession-wise, 45% possession compared to 55% possession RSL has in this game. And again, I also think that this game kind of also just an enemy of RSL problem this season. I mean, we've seen this happen before where they have been the better team and create more of the chances, but they're not clinical in terms of finishing. And we saw it in the last game too against the Quakes too. I mean, I didn't think they played bad in that game against the Quakes, but they just couldn't put the ball into the back of net. And again, these points that they drop, especially in this game where they came out with nothing. And even though I know they're sitting in 6th place in the standings, there are teams that are just below them are hungry to try to get their spot. And again, if you go in a bad run of form like RSL is in for a while right now, Yeah, this is bad news for RSL. Teams are gonna start to pass them, and that if they don't get things going, they could definitely be in dangers of missing out on the playoffs. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last two games to finish off this mega review that I'm doing for all the midweek action. All right, so to finish off this mega review, we are gonna have to finish off with the board of pain. And the reason why I say this is the board of pain is because this is the board that both of my team lost in this midweek action, and it's not often that both of my team actually lost this season. In fact, I think this is only like the second time that both of my team lost at the same time in a match week. But yeah, let's talk about the first one, which is the one that I went to, and that of course is the meltdown that we saw in Carson between the LA Galaxy and Minnesota United. And honestly, as much as it was a meltdown for the Loons, I saw it coming. Like I saw it coming even before when the Galaxy got that second goal to make it 3-2. As soon as I saw the shape that the Loons were playing, it was pretty clear that it was Rojivo all over again. And how many times I've said that? Well, at times this season, Rojivo has worked out well for Minnesota. There's all those time that it doesn't work out, and this is the reason why every Minnesota United fans hate Adrian Heaven in terms of this tactics, and why I have that name called Rojivo, because yeah, Rojivo means that you try to maybe hold on for dear life and trying to get yourself all 3 points or even get a point by just bunkering and pray that the opposition don't do much. And more times or not, it's not gonna work. And it definitely did not work in this game against the Galaxy. Now, early on, there was a scramble in the Galaxy box, which the Loons just about clear it. Yeah, it was definitely not a good start for the Loons in this game. The first shot for Minnesota did see Bond deny Pookie from close range. I thought both of these teams were definitely getting some good early chances, but it's the Galaxy that gets the opening goal, and it's Billy Sharp who has really started to become being one of the most underrated signing this season. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have talked about how big of a signing this is for the Galaxy, bringing Billy Sharp, and I really love how he played during his time with Sheffield United, and that he's always definitely a legend there with that club, and he's definitely bring that veteran experience now with the Galaxy. Scoring here to make it 1-0 in favor of them, and little do we know, turns out to be a very big night for him too. But also, that goal probably shouldn't have happened if it wasn't for some ball watching defending there from the Loons. That won't be the last time I'll mention this. In fact, there was a lot of bad defending from the Loons. This is arguably the worst defensive display I've seen this Minnesota United team play all season long. And also Dane Sinclair, I talked about this season being very inconsistent. There's been some good game, there's been some bad game. I feel like this game we saw a version of both. We saw a good Dane Sinclair at this game, and then we saw a pretty bad Dane Sinclair this season, and this is one that I think he could have done much better there in that near post. I mean, I think he could have saved that one. But nevertheless, the Galaxy were up 1-0. But if there's one thing about Minnesota this season is that they are able to respond relatively quick. They have done it a lot of time this season, believe it or not, and they did it here again. And in the 19th minute, Timo Pukki with an instant response to tie the game up at one apiece. I thought the Loons started to control the possession and control the game after that. Though Boyd did blast it into the stands after just a terrible giveaway from Greg Gooch there. Yeah, you just cannot turn the ball over that easily if you're the Loons, and they got away with one there. Trap then puts it just wide from long range. That was actually close. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching, I was just saying, please don't shoot that Will Trap, and he actually shot it, but it was actually pretty close. I mean, it definitely had Jonathan Bond worried there. Another thing I also realized is that there was also a lot of stoppage because of injuries. Yeah, guys were just dropping like flies. It was kind of a physical game, and that because of that we had like a long spell of stoppage time in this one. But that being said, in the 42nd minute, Minnesota takes the lead. It's Longwane scoring from Dotson to make it 2-1, and this was kind of almost reminiscent of the young Gregush goal against NYCFC. It took a wicked deflection and it loops over the keeper's head. I mean, definitely had a lot of fortune in that, but I mean, you'll take it, and especially with the way that Bangui Longwane has been having a great season. When you have a great season, those are gonna go in your favorite. So yeah, that made it 2-1. Though on the other end, Dane Sinclair would deny Sharp, but it actually rebounded right to Vinga, and his shot was actually somehow denied by Dane Sinclair. So again, this is where we saw the good part of Dane Sinclair making some heroic save there, and it would be big too because right on the stroke of halftime, Minnesota would make it 3-1. And guess who it is again? It's Longwane. He scored from Pookie to make it 3-1 in favor of Minnesota. It was such a great team goal from this Loons team, and that yeah, great transitional no play that led to a goal. And yeah, Minnesota were leading 3-1. So you're thinking, well, yeah, it looks like this is done, right? I mean, the Galaxy, that's probably the last thing they want to do, conceding that third goal right on the stroke of halftime. Nothing crazy happened in the second half, right? Oh, you do not know the sports culture of Minnesota because in the second half, in the 51st minute, Pooch would hits one right to Dane Sinclair. And also, you do not know the power of Rohifmo can do to this team. But in the 54th minute, Longwani then hits one right to Bond before Pooch would hit a one hopper. Hit a one hopper that actually bounced over the bar. One thing I also didn't mention here is that Reynoso actually was subbed off in the beginning of the second half. They said that it looks like he picked up a knock here, which we'll see whether or not if that's going to be something that could bother him that he could miss a game because yeah, that's a huge loss for this Minnesota team. I mean, it's no surprise that this team just kind of went meltdown mode and didn't really create anything after Reynoso come off the pitch in this game. In the 57th minute, oh, actually I said that already, but in the 60th minute, Sharp would then puts it over the bar, and the Galaxy started to build the momentum. And this is where, again, this is where I started started to get really concerned because the shape that the Loons were putting was clearly road heap mode. Like they were just not getting enough possession. They would keep giving the ball right back to the Galaxy, and it started to mount up the pressure sure a little bit. And guess what happens when that? Yeah, Minnesota would concede. In the 64th minute, it's Bailey Sharp scoring for Yoshida here to make it 3-2 in this game. Again, some ball watching set piece defending. I thought the defending, I said that the defending was probably the worst this season for Minnesota United. It kind of was the same on the set pieces too, especially on the corner. I mentioned earlier how many times there was some scramble in the box that the Loons miraculously was able to clear the lines there, and here in this time they didn't do so. So again, a lot of that has to do with just the entire back line just froze. I mean, I don't know if they were hoping that maybe Billy Sharp was in an offside position. That everybody was raising their hands from those Minnesota defenders, but there was no offside that was called. And I think it was Tapias might be the one that played Billy Sharp onside. But yeah, that made it 3-2 in this one, and I mean, row, here we go again. And I've started fear the worst because this looked like it's something I've seen before where the meltdown is about to begin, and it did. In the 67th minute, Dane Sinclair would deny Boyd in the near post, and in the 72nd minute, Billy Sharp would complete his hat trick. He scored from Edwards here to tie the game up at 3 apiece. He would like to thank the Minnesota United defense for allowing him to score a hat trick because yeah, this was just. I mean, if you play the Billy Hill theme song in terms of this goal, it would not be out of place because this all started with I think there was two Minnesota players going for the same header, and both of them clash each other. And then the ball was turned over, and I think it was maybe Tapias that was trying to shield a Galaxy attacker, let the ball out of play, but instead the ball wasn't even close to being rolling out of play, and then he got picked off. And then I think there was also Boxall had a chance to redeem himself and clear that one away. He doesn't. He cleared it right to Raheem Edwards, and yeah, I mean that was just that was crazy of how bad the defense is, and that's what happened when you go heat mode, and that's what happened when you're in part of a meltdown. As the Loons were clearly in. I mean, just nothing makes sense anymore for this team. This team just completely unravel. And to make matter worse, 2 minutes later, Ethan Bristol would get his second yellow card of the game of a nihilist challenge. And honestly, I know it might still be early days, but my God, Ethan Bristol, it's already started looking like it's a bust signing. I mean, I'm sorry. I know it's still early to judge. I know he only played a couple of games, but there hasn't really been a game where he has wowed him. And the fact that this is a guy that came from the League Two of English football, I mean, League Two is the fourth division of English football, and MLS. I always think that it's kind of like right near the level of the championship, maybe right just above League One. But to bring a League Two defender to MLS play and even give him some minutes, and I know he's young and he does have potential, but my God, he's been really bad in his early days for this team, and things need to change for him, and maybe him not getting as many minutes because he's looked terrible, and he was also one of the big reason why the meltdown happened, because the Minnesota was down to 10 men again. The meltdown was in full force. Minnesota was definitely living up to its sports tradition. You know how it is with Minnesota sports. It's the most cursed state in the country in terms of sports, and it seems like the choke is about to complete, and it complete in the 82nd minute with Fagundes scoring from Delgado to make it 4-3 in favor of the Galaxy. And again, Dane Sinclair should have done better. I mean, that one was kind of hit right to him. I mean, he did have to react quickly to that, and I think it would have been a great save. But it's a save that if you want to be becoming one of the top tier goalkeeper in the league, or even in the middle range, that has to be saved from Dane Sinclair. But it wasn't. It's 4-3 in favor of the Galaxy. I didn't write any notes after that because again, I just I mean I wasn't really that stunned when I saw this. I mean I just felt just disappointed because of how the meltdown was happening. Like I was wishing the fact that the meltdown wasn't gonna happen, even though I kind of saw it coming. And yeah, I mean it was just it was kind of surreal, the fact that how the meltdown was coming, even though I saw it. I mean, again, that sounds kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, it was it's still kind of surreal. Though I will say that you got to give a lot of credit to the Galaxy. They able to find a way, and this is where this team. I don't know if I said them. They are going to be one of those teams that could get themselves into a playoff position despite being uh near the bottom of the playoff line, because besides that El Trafico game, this team has been a tough team to beat. I mean, I really think for the Galaxy, as long as they don't beat LAFC in the playoffs, this team can definitely make some noise if they do make it to the playoffs. And they prove that they have that never say die mentality in this game too. As in the end, they get a 4-3 win in this one against Minnesota. The shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 11 that Minnesota has. 11 shots on goal compared to 7 that Minnesota has. Yeah, that Minnesota defense was non-existent. They didn't even show up in this game whatsoever. 2 shots off target with a 5 that the Galaxy had. 5 shots that was blocked with a 2 that Minnesota has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And I would not even be surprised if Minnesota does not make it to the playoffs after this performance. Like, this is kind of a performance that can really set back this team. And I know they still have some home games left this season, but that's the problem. This season they haven't won a lot of game at home, but just the way that they lost in this one, and the fact that they only have a quick amount of time to recover and have another big game against St. Louis. Yeah, I mean, that St. Louis game I think is going to be interesting. It is going to be very interesting to see what kind of mentality that they need to show, because if they show up in that game against St. Louis, I think there could be some hope that their playoff hope is still alive, because this is actually the first time in a while that they're actually now below the red line since the beginning of the season. But if they don't show up in that game against St. Louis, you might as well just repeat what we saw last year, where they just completely collapsed in the month of September, and we're seeing it right now, only for it to be delayed a couple of weeks compared to last season, where it was kind of like around August. That's when the collapse began, and it rolled into September. But that being said, moving on into the next game, is a game that, I will say that this one was kind of less painful to deal with compared to this game, because, I knew coming into this game the Quakes were going to lose to the Portland Timbers. I mean, I feel like every single season, it is pretty clear that the San Jose Earthquakes will never go an entire season unbeaten. And in fact, if they even have a record amount of unbeaten streak, you know that unbeaten streak is going to come to an end when they play against the Portland Timbers at Providence Park, because it just you know how when the one team just clearly have the other team number when they play at a certain stadium, or shall I say maybe when the team that go on the road to play at a place that has just been an absolute house of horror. That's kind of the case for the Quakes in terms of Providence Park. They simply cannot win a game at Providence Park, and it happened again in this one too. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Zuperich hits it wide from the corner. Not much really happened in the first 15 minutes, though that quickly changed because in the 20th minute, Evander would hits one right to Danielle before Danielle denied Evander on the free kick. Bravo then puts it high from the long range. It was all Portland up to this point. Like the Quakes, I feel like they were doing what Luchi Gonzalez sometimes do, which is just park the bus, pray to maybe score a goal, and make a 1-0 win or so for. Didn't happen because in the third minute of stoppage time, Paredes would score from Brian Acosta to make it 1-0 in favor of the Timbers, and the bread and butter is working again. I mean, I feel like these last couple of games, the Timbers have started going back to their bread and butter, going back to that transitional play. I mean, somewhere Giovanni Savarese, even though he's been fired from this team, they're still smiling. The fact that his former team is still living up to its identity of going on the transition and trying to hit teams on the counter attack to score goals. And even though I know most team has kind of figured that out from the Timbers, there's times where even when you figure it out, you still can't defend it, and that was kind of an example in this. In fact, I feel like throughout this game, the Quakes were clearly unprepared for the transitional play because the Timbers were very lethal on the transitional play in this one. In the second half, there was no penalty that was given to the Timbers after VAR deemed that Acabo did not foul Blanco in the box, so the Quakes got away with that there. But Bravo then fires it high from long range. It was still all Timbers up to that point as they were looking for a second. Bravo would then hits one right to Danielle, and then they do get their second in the 58th minute. It's Evander scoring to make it 2-0 in favor of the Timbers. That was just poor from Rodriguez. I mean, he cleared it straight into to Evander, and when you have the quality of Evander, he can score from anywhere, and it's no surprise he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Timbers. But 2 minutes later, Quakes give some false hope as Matthew Hoppe would score his first career MLS goal to make it 2-1 in favor of the Timbers, and then Ebolisi would look to score against his former team. I'm kind of surprised he haven't done it so far against the Timbers. Like you would assume he probably would have done it because of the way that there are some bad blood between him and the Timbers during his time before he joined the Quakes, but he missed wide there. Again, there was a glimmer of hope, which again I shouldn't say that because as a Quakes fan, whenever you say a glimmer of hope, it's probably just false. But they were still looking to try to tie the game, though Paredes did hits one right to Danielle before Beeson would head it wide from the corner, and that would actually be the last chance that the Quakes would have because from then on the Timbers had more chances. Mascara then puts it wide following a lightning counterattack. Again, the Timbers transition was just devastating. The Quakes cannot deal with it. But here's the problem for the Timbers. It was still 2-1. And even though I said that was the last chance for the Quakes in the 73rd minute, I mean, I'm pretty sure those Timbers fans didn't realize at that point. And we've seen before, the Timbers have had that habit of dropping points late in games. Mora would then hits it wide from close after just a bad turnover from the Quakes. But fortunately for the Timbers, they hold on and win this one 2-1 against the Quakes. As the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 6 that the Quakes had, 2 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Timbers had, 3 shots off target compared to 10 that the Timbers had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1, or actually 3 shots that was off target compared to 10 that the Timbers had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession the Timbers has in this game. So yeah, not much to say about this game other than the fact that, again, whenever the Quakes play against the Timbers, it's an automatic L. They just got to have to move on in that and have a big game against Nashville, and that's definitely not going to be an easy one considering what Nashville just did to Sporting KC. But for the Portland Timbers, again, they're still truly alive in the playoffs. And again, speaking about Giovanni Savarese, he's probably also smiling the fact that the team he started to go on a good run. Or shall I say, maybe he's not smiling because of that, because usually when you're a former head coach and your team immediately goes in a good form, you're probably not happy about that. Maybe because it's you that is the reason that caused the team to go in a bad form. But I also thought maybe this is just kind of a head coach boost that the Timbers might be getting. Again, you see it happen every time when a new interim head coach comes in. You get that bounce and get that boost. And the Timbers are definitely enjoying that, and maybe enough for them to make it to the playoffs. But we'll see. I mean, again, this was pretty much a free points for them, knowing the fact that they're playing at home against the Quakes, which again, it's always a free points with the Timbers. It is very rare that the Quakes. I always say that when the Quakes play against the Timbers at Providence Park, it's a miracle that they can even get a draw out of that game, because I know the history of the Quakes playing at Providence Park, and it is not a good one whatsoever. But there you have it. We made it. We're at the end of this video. And again, for those that have made it through all the way to the end without using the timestamp, thank you for watching this video. I mean, I don't know how long this video has gone. Probably close to the 90 minutes mark. Although by the time when I edit all that, I'll find out how long the video is. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this review? And again, you don't have to watch the whole review. I probably should have said that in the beginning, because that's why timestamp exists in terms of the description below. But yeah, either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.